Good afternoon. His Excellency Ambassador Vladimir Norov, Secretary General, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Beijing. Ambassador Reenat Sandhu, Secretary West, Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi. Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs, New Delhi. And distinguished participants. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all here for the online conference SCO and India, the trajectory ahead. The event is in continuation of the ICWA's academic focus on the Eurasian region, and especially the SCO, which have substantially increased since India's joining of the organization as a full member in 2017. As a full member, the Indian Council of World Affairs has participated in all the SCO forum meetings. It also conducted a study in the run-up to the SCO Heads of Government Council meeting hosted for the first time by India in November 2022. The study was by two distinguished ambassadors, Ambassador P. Estobdan and Ambassador Yogendra Kumar, both of whom have kindly agreed to chair the two technical sessions today. The first major conference themed on India-SCO engagement was hosted by ICWA last year, September, and we are delighted that Ambassador Vladimir Norov, Secretary General SCO, and Ambassador Reenat Sandhu, Secretary West, will be addressing us in the current edition of ICWA's Conference on India's engagement with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Let me briefly outline today's program. First, Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs, will deliver the welcome remarks, and she will be chairing the session. After that, Ambassador Reenat Sandhu, Secretary West, Ministry of External Affairs, will be requested to address us with her special remarks. We would like to inform that the Secretary General is unable to join us live, and he has sent the video message of his opening address to the conference. The program will conclude following the video address by the Secretary General and a vote of thanks. Thank you. May I now request Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs, to make welcome remarks and to conduct the proceedings. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everybody. His Excellency Ambassador Vladimir Norov, Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Ambassador Reenat Sandhu, Secretary West in the Ministry of External Affairs, and all participants. Let me warmly welcome you on behalf of the Indian Council of World Affairs to today's event on SCO in India, the trajectory ahead. I am particularly grateful to Ambassador Norov for delivering the opening address today. Ambassador Norov is a friend of India and of the ICWA. He has attended the Council's programs both in person and in online formats. A very warm welcome to Ambassador Reenat Sandhu, Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, for agreeing to join this program and to grace us with her special remarks at the inaugural session. Today's conference has been organized in the follow-up to the 21st Heads of State Summit and in the run-up to the upcoming Heads of Government meeting in November in Kazakhstan. Besides, we are also commemorating the 20 years of the formation of the organization. SCO covers a wide swath of global humanity and geography. The profile and reputation of SCO as an effective regional voice has been growing. Its decision-making process, based on a consensus approach to achieve its common objectives and goals, has been useful in two ways. One, it has helped in expanding its agenda, and secondly, for increasing its membership. The organization remains active throughout the year, organizing events and engaging with members, observers, and dialogue partners at the political level, on political issues, on official issues, and at academic levels. The SCO family has increased with the inclusion of Iran as a new member and Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt as observers. This expansion strengthens the organization and at the same time opens new prospects for enhanced economic and strategic dynamism, both for the SCO as well as its constituents. India became a full member of the SCO in 2017 after a meaningful period of association as an observer. From the perspective of India's engagement, year 2020 was important as for the first time a summit-level SCO meeting was hosted in New Delhi. The online 19th Council of Heads of Government Summit was hosted by Honorable Vice President of India, who is also the President of the Indian Council of World Affairs. In his remarks, Vice President affirmed India's commitment to play a proactive, positive, and constructive role in SCO. The SCO had just concluded its 21st Heads of State Summit in Dushanbe in September, which was attended online by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Dushanbe Summit was important from various perspectives. A number of issues were discussed and initiatives discussed to improve regional security and economic environment. Apart from COVID discussions, it deliberated on issues of security, including threats emanating from terrorism and radicalization. Afghanistan was a major issue at the Dushanbe meeting, and the SCO underlined the importance of an inclusive government in Afghanistan. These issues of terrorism and radicalization in Afghanistan are of concern to the larger international community as well. Dear friends, the Eurasian space is growing. Ever increased attention of the world is on it. The region has a demographic dividend with a very young population. It has a fast recovery in terms of its economic growth. It has an entrepreneurial manpower, and that all adds up to great comparative advantages. Our deliberations today should come up with ideas that help in enhancing India-SCO linkages and in formulating agendas for the forthcoming meetings of SCO, in particular for the period when India will assume the chair of the Head of State Council of the SCO from September 2022. ICWA, on its part, is also making efforts to increase its contribution to SCO. ICW attends the annual SCO forum meetings and other events organized by member states. It also conducts study on India-SCO engagements by prominent experts, including by Ambassador Stockton and Ambassador Yogendra Kumar, who will be chairing the technical sessions of this conference. I'm delighted to inform that ICWA has established a dedicated SCO study center. The announcement was made by Vice President earlier this year in July 2021. This center is probably the first of the centers in the country specifically set up to study this important regional groupings. I thank you for your attention, and with this I will conclude my remarks. And may I now invite Ambassador Reenat Sandhu, Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, to deliver her special remarks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency Vladimir Norov and Director General of ICWA. I'm delighted to address this audience of India's leading scholars dealing with Russia and the Central Asian region. In the rapidly changing landscape of the region, today's conference on the SCO and India, the trajectory ahead is both timely and essential. I'm certain that today's meeting will contribute to a better understanding of the fast-paced events taking place in our neighborhood and also India's growing engagement with the SCO. We have indeed come a long way in our association with the organization as an observer state in 2005 and then as a full member state since 2017. In this journey, we have continued to play a positive and constructive role that contributes to the growth and prosperity of the region. The first area of our focus has been the question of peace and security in the region. That is also a major mandate of the SCO Charter. We are aware of the important role that this organization plays in this field through the work of its specialized body, the Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure or RATS in Tashkent. India contributes actively to the work of RATS, and we hope to give it a new direction and momentum to its activities during our current chairmanship of the SCO RATS in 2021-22. We highly value the ongoing cooperation in RATS in countering terrorism, separatism and extremism, terror financing, illegal trafficking of drugs and arms and ammunition. We look forward to a substantive year of engagement with other member states during the course of our chairmanship of RATS. The concerns of SCO member states on regional security are inextricably linked to the situation in Afghanistan, that is an immediate neighbor for many of the SCO countries. With the decision to induct Iran as a new member state, all neighbors of Afghanistan are now part of the SCO family. This makes SCO the natural platform to seek cooperation and a common understanding on the emerging situation in Afghanistan. This has led to two major engagements in the past months in Dushanbe, the meeting of the SCO Afghanistan Contact Group on 14 July and the SCO CSTO outreach on Afghanistan on 17 September. Both these meetings were useful as a forum for an open exchange of opinions on Afghanistan and its impact on the entire region. Apart from security issues, India has sought to tap into SCO's vast potential for cooperation in the field of trade, connectivity, and culture. We have sought to prioritize these areas during India's chairmanship of the SCO Council of Heads of Government for the first time in 2020, where we propose to create 3 new pillars of cooperation within the SCO on traditional medicines, science and technology, and startups and innovation. India hosted for the first time in SCO a Young Scientist Conclave, an MSME forum, and the SCO Startup Forum in 2020, which were all very highly successful. We also propose to set up 2 new institutional mechanisms to be led by India, a special working group on startups and an expert working group on traditional medicines. Highlighting our common historical and cultural heritage, India also organized the first ever virtual exhibition on shared Buddhist heritage in the SCO member states and translated 10 books of regional Indian literature into SCO official languages, that is Russian and Chinese. Our initiatives were well received by all member states. As the organization celebrates its 20th anniversary this year, it has emerged as a major regional multilateral cooperation framework and provides India with an institutional framework as an institutional platform to engage with all our neighbors, especially countries of Central Asia. In the vastly altered global political and economic situation after the pandemic, SCO provides a constructive platform of increasing cooperation between the member states that account for 40% of global population and nearly 20% of global GDP. India sees a vast and untapped potential for mutually beneficial cooperation in the area of security, trade, connectivity, and culture in the SCO region. We hope that the discussions today will give us fresh insights into deepening and enriching this engagement with SCO. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the ICWA for organizing today's program and taking the initiative. I would also like to congratulate you for setting up the SCO Study Center, the first of its kind, and wish you every success. As you mentioned, ma'am, we will be chairing the SCO heads of state of 2022, and it will be a very important role going forward, and the role of ICWA will be very important. So thank you very much, and I wish all success to today's deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Reenat Sandhu, for your remarks. And we take your advice that ICWA will work closely with MEA to see how we can contribute to the upcoming summit, which is coming here in Kazakhstan, and subsequently as we take the chairmanship of the SCO Heads of State Council. Thank you so much for your remarks. May I now request that the remarks of His Excellency Vladimir Norov and his recorded message be played.
Dear Ambassador Mrs. Vijay Thakur Singh, distinguished participants, thank you for inviting me to speak at the opening ceremony of today's conference to address the various dimensions of India's role and place in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I proceed from the premise that the starting point and political guideline of the forthcoming discussion is further consolidation of SCO, enhancements of its authority and influence in the world, consistent development of cooperation within it for the benefit of security and prosperity of member states and the entire SCO family, which now comprises 21 states. I would like to thank the Indian Council of World Affairs for organizing the conference. I should note that over the past 3 years, and taking India's first participation in the SCO Heads of State Council meeting as a full-fledged member state, at the starting point, the Council has tangibly established itself as an effective and creative intellectual center capable of generating productive and interesting ideas to improve various aspects of our organization functioning and promote common interests in the international arena. We highly appreciate the presentation of Indian experts at the recent session of SCO Forum and their reflections on enhancing trade and economic partnership in the SCO in the post-COVID era. As you know, this year is a jubilee year for SCO. The organization has entered into the third decade of its existence. A little over a month ago, the Council of Heads of the SCO member states in Dushanbe adopted an SCO 20th anniversary declaration in which the leaders of 8 nations summarized the main results of the SCO activities in the past period, recorded the common position on key issues of regional and global policies, outlined the objectives of future work. The principal priority of the SCO has always been to ensure security and stability in the organization's area of responsibility, which today has assumed a trans-regional dimension. The member states, in cooperation with the observers and dialogue partners, as well as other interested countries and associations, resolutely combat terrorism in all its forms and manifestations: separatism, extremism, illicit trafficking of drugs, arms, ammunition, and explosive transnational organized crime. SCO has firmly taken its place at the forefront of multilateral efforts to ensure international information security. Particular attention is paid to cooperation in detecting and suppressing attempts to use the Internet for terrorist, separatist, and extremist purposes. Understandably, the Afghan issue has risen to the top of the SCO agenda. So first joint SCO CSTO summit dedicated to the situation in Afghanistan was held in Dushanbe in conjunction with the SCO Heads of State Council meeting. The SCO advocates the establishment of Afghanistan as an independent, neutral, integrated, democratic, and peaceful state, free of terrorism, war, and drugs. The establishment of an inclusive government in Afghanistan with the participation of representatives of all ethnic, religious and public groups of Afghan society is extremely important. The SCO has steadily increased its positive impact on the situation in Afghanistan. India takes an active part in the work of SCO Afghanistan Contact Group because peace and stability in that country and in the Central Asia in general, which is the core of SCO, are of strategic importance for India. Dear colleagues, in view of the growing significance of the SCO in Eurasia and beyond, and India's increasing role in regional and global processes, one can state with a confidence that India's membership of this organization undoubtedly contributes to peace and prosperity in the entire vast region. As Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi noted, our membership in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a natural extension of the relationship India has with its member countries and reflects the region's place in India's future. Since joining the SCO as a full-fledged member state, India has been actively involved in the activities of the organization without any hesitation. At the 10th meeting of heads of SCO member states, disaster management agencies organized in New Delhi in November 2019, the action plan for the implementation of the SCO Intergovernmental Agreement on Cooperation in Disaster Management disaster management assistance for 2020-2021 was approved, thus enhancing cooperation between our countries in this area. India's representatives in the Secretariat and in the SCO regional anti-terrorist structure are directly involved in drafting and implementing important documents aimed at ensuring security, strengthening trade and economic relations, and developing cultural and humanitarian links within the organization. We know the successful meeting of the Council of Heads of Government, Prime Ministers of the SCO member states hosted by New Delhi in video conference format last year and the organization by our Indian partners of various events at the ministerial and expert levels. A very promising initiative is the establishment of the Special Working Group on Startups and Innovations, which would meet annually on Indian territory, and the establishment of the SCO Young Scientists Conclave to form a science, technology, and innovation partnership within the organization. India's proposal to establish an ad hoc working group on traditional medicine within the framework of the meeting of Ministers of Health of the SCO member states is of serious practical importance. I cannot fail to mention the first consortium of the SCO Economic and Analytical Centers organized by India, under which an action plan was developed to provide a roadmap for implementing the program of multilateral trade and economic cooperation. One cannot ignore India's unique Asian culture, which has greatly enriched the civilizational palette of the SCO. Last year, at the initiative of the India side, the first ever SCO International Online Exhibition of Buddhist Heritage was held at the National Museum in New Delhi. The exhibition featured rare Buddhist treasures and artifacts found during excavation of famous archaeological sites on the territory of SCO member states. This online exhibition on the Buddhist heritage allowed us to experience firsthand the immense world of Buddhism and Indian philosophy in general, and to realize once again the deep historical ties between our countries. The 10 books of Indian literature translated from 10 different Indian languages presented to the Secretariat and the SCO member states on English language this year upon the initiative of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, announced at the SCO Summit of Heads of State in Bishkek in 2019, will further increase the understanding and love of Indian culture and literature among the readers of the SCO member states. India has opened to the SCO member states an amazing world of yoga, which is becoming more and more popular every year in the world, uniting people of different races and beliefs. I know that the perfect wisdom and spiritual love underlying yoga largely in the tune with the principles of the Shanghai spirit, which constitute the moral and ethical, foundation of the SCO. Dear friends, India's admission to the SCO has significantly broadened the organization's geographical reach, raised its profile and influence in the region and the world. We are convinced that your country will continue to make a significant contribution to the SCO's work in maintaining peace and stability in the region, countering current as well as possible future threats and challenges of objective and subjective human factors, natural and man-made nature. India's potential is huge in terms of developing trade and economic, scientific and technical cooperation within the organization, including the expansion of alternative energy sources, the introduction of information technologies, telemedicine, pharmaceuticals, medical tourism, financial, hospitality, and tourist services, and building up cooperation in environmental protection. Of course, in the current circumstances, the primary importance is given to the combining the scientific and production capabilities of the SCO countries in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, in the context of which India, China, and Russia are the countries with the most powerful scientific and technological capabilities, are objectively destined to play the leading role. Equally important is the coordination and development of joint strategy to overcome the social and economic consequences of the coronavirus cataclysm, restore cross-border production chains, transport communication, the normal movement of technology, goods, services, and capital, and the elimination of human exchanges. We highly appreciate the India's activity in the youth dimension of the SCO. The young generation, more than 800 million young people live in the SCO today, is our common future, which we must jointly nurture, guide, and protect. And of course, we consider India as one of the key players in strengthening cultural and humanitarian cooperation between the SCO member states. Many of the points I touched upon were raised by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the SCO Heads of State Council meeting in Dushanbe. These topics were also mentioned in his speech at the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. I do not doubt that today's conference will formulate new substantive ideas on further enrichment of interaction within SCO across the full spectrum of its agenda, which will later on be translated into political steps. I wish everyone a productive session ahead. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Vladimir Norov. I feel that the remarks of both Ambassador Rinat Sandhu and Ambassador Norov have highlighted at one level the expanding mandate of SCO and the positive and the growing role of India in the SCO in various aspects, whether it is the strategic importance of India, whether it is the technological strength of India, whether it is the economic strengths of India. So we now have a broad array of areas in which the experts can see what are the specific comments and the specific ideas they can bring forth at the discussions in the technical sessions. The technical sessions will take place immediately after the inaugural session. So at this point, we have come to the end of the inaugural session, and I would request Dr. Athar Zafar, the Senior Research Fellow at the Indian Council of World Affairs, to move the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. His Excellency Ambassador Vladimir Norov, Secretary General, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Ambassador Rinat Sandhu, Secretary West, Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi. We, on behalf of the Council, express our sincere gratitude for your presence and valuable remarks, which have set the broader framework for the subsequent discussions in today's event. We owe a special thanks to all the participants of the inaugural session of today's conference. At the Council, we thank Ambassador Vijay Thakur Singh, our Director General, for welcoming the participants and chairing the inaugural session. The organizing team is thankful to Shri Sumen Bagchi, Deputy Director General ICWA, and Director Research Dr. Nivedita Ray for their constant guidance. A special thanks to seminar team and IT team whose efforts keep us connected through the online means. Also, I express gratitude to the research faculty for their assistance in organizing the program. With this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you once again. We will resume at 1500 hours to the technical sessions. Thank you.